Hi everybody and welcome to my channel, Just Drew, where I talk about reinvention, renewal and whatever may be of interest to me. Today I want to talk about religion in Kenya to be specific. To be more specific, I'd like to talk about Christianity. And while I'm talking, I'm going to do my nails because they need to get done. For somebody who has been away, it is quite interesting to see the rise in churches in this country. There are a large number of churches all over the place. Either they're upcoming or they are already established with, what do you call it? Maybe they have a congregation, but at least the sign is there on the street that it is a church. Now, I find it quite peculiar, this rise in churches, because there's so many other things we need as a society, and the only thing you're seeing increasing is churches. Now, for me, churches are a place for community and growing the social aspect of one's life, in addition to the most important thing, which is the Word of God. I was raised a Christian. I've been going to churches for a very long time. It's only recently in my adulthood that I have fallen off. I've not been back to church since I came back to this country. And I'm very traditional in the sense that I was raised Anglican, and then my mother moved us into, what do you call this? Prosperity gospel type of church. First it was evangelical, then prosperity gospel, and then I just fell off because I was like, what is this? But now I'm more spiritual. I have a daily walk with God. I talk to God daily, but I'm not involved or affiliated with any church at the moment. So the reason I was stating the use of churches as I saw it in the past is because I would think that's what it's for now. Because has anything changed? I don't think so. In terms of what a church is to do, provide a place where you can commune together with others of the same faith and commune with God. And it's also a place where people can receive help if they're in need. But here I've noticed that in many places that I've been, you can see people who are clearly in need, and there is clearly a church in the surrounding, but they are not being assisted. Which begs the question, doesn't the church see what's happening? Doesn't the church see them? Doesn't the church see the need? Because there are many new sanctuaries, are they called, being built. You can see a large sanctuary with all the bells and whistles, and it's a building, and you can know that it's people's earnings that have contributed to this. But what about the person on the street? It's quite sad to see. Anyway, that's what I think. And the business of church, because let's face it, it is a business. The true reason for churches being created in the first place is not being fulfilled as it should. And that's a problem. There's a rise of private churches, and there's no regulation. We do not know anything about what's going on in those facilities. I do not know if they offer this information anyway in the first place, because there's a power in secrecy, and they're clearly using that power for their advantage. So there's financial exploitation also going on, especially when it comes to the prosperity churches that say that you need to plant a seed to receive X, Y, and Z, and people are just giving and giving, thinking that miracles will occur. Don't. Of course, the next thing that you have to think about, because we're thinking about this, we're looking at this from the lens of, I'm an outsider looking in and I have nothing to gain or to lose from what I am observing. You have to think about also the rise in lavish lifestyles of the lifestyle of the person leading the church, the cars they drive, because Kenya is a big car country. If you don't have a big car in this country, what are you doing? What are you doing? You need to do better. Plant more seed. You see the ridiculousness of it all? But let me go back to my point, the lavishness of the lifestyles of these pastors. And I have been the fortunate or unfortunate recipient of information of how some of these businesses are run. And they will call it a seed up to the point that a person has, let's say, risen at their workplace and they're still planting seeds. I don't know, is this a form of, I don't know, brainwashing? Because it just does not make sense. You will find a logical person who has been educated to the highest levels, their leader, and everybody will be wowing. But if you're from the outside looking in, you can see that there's something amiss. Something is not making sense. I've never been able to put my finger on what it is. So they have their lavish lifestyles with their children who are educated abroad. And you look at some of the schools and the facilities in schools around the country that are just dilapidated. And you say to yourself, how can this be? And it does not necessarily have to be a facility or in a school that is placed further away out of the city. It could be something that is right in the city, and you can see that there's a lack in facilities in this school, and you'll find pastors educating their children abroad, which I'm also not saying is wrong, but there needs to be a balance. I can only speak on this truly because, as I've mentioned in the videos before, I recently came back, and churches in Denmark do not serve the function that churches in Kenya serve. In that country, their government provides for the people, as it should. The education, the social services, the care of mental patients, the care of the homeless. If you lose your job, they'll support you. It does a lot, and it costs a lot. But that's how they built the society to be. Now, ours is not such a society, and I think that's where the role of the church has come into play. The church is filling the role of government, but they are also unable to fulfill that role well, and they are using the sources of funds to enrich themselves. And that is a problem. It's a problem for the society you're building. And the reason I'm actually speaking about religion and churches is because, aside from seeing the number of churches that are coming up and growing, I was speaking with somebody who had lent money once. I'd helped him, and I never saw him again. But I was like, whatever. It wasn't a large sum of money, but it was worth thinking about and worth me remembering up till now. And I said, how is so-and-so? Because I met a colleague that I had in common with him. And I asked him, how is he? And he was like, oh, he's fine. He's a pastor. And I thought, a pastor? How can he be a pastor? Yes, maybe he may have repented. Maybe he may have done X, Y, and Z. But I could also immediately tell that he placed himself to be a pastor wherever he is because he has lack. And he lacked from the time he was borrowing the money from me, and he lacks now. That's why he's gone into pastorship. Anyway, the number of stories I've also seen in the news in regards to churches and fake miracles and manipulation of congregations, exploitation, is actually amazing that we have let it grow this far as a society. It's something that needs to be either controlled now, or we have no idea where this is going to go on in future. I was about to end the video, but another problem I just remembered is that Many churches are also used by politicians as a form of influence. And that's why there perhaps is a lack of control and regulation in the churches. It is all so massively entangled, and it is quite a huge mess, for lack of a better word, that needs to be untangled for this society to grow into a society where all can be well taken care of, and there can be situations where exploitation cannot happen to the extent that it's happening to people in need, to the poor, and even to people who are not in need, to be honest. There needs to be some sort of cap into the amount of resources you can donate to a church. Maybe that's one way we can do it. I can't imagine this being brought forward as a solution publicly. I'll be lynched. But anyway, those are my thoughts on churches, and it will remain so. I will remain a spiritual person, continuing with my walk with God, and when I die, we'll see what happens. Till then, leave a comment about what you think.